Before I got to that point, and before we got to this final face down, he's sitting in the basement and he is thinking that he will light the apartment on fire. Hi, this is Emma. Today I want to talk about something that has been really important in my journey during the last years in my narcissistic relationship and afterward. It is something that has convinced me that it is something going on other than just the surface level psychology that is often talked about. And it has also convinced me that there is a good force in the universe that has been helping me. So I want to share a few stories. And so the place that I'm coming from, I'm not raised in a religious home. I am a reader, and I am a, at home philosopher, you can say. It's like the armchair philosopher here. I don't attend church right now. I feel that anytime I try to go into religion and try to be part of a religious community, it gets really dogmatic, and it takes me away from the spirituality and from the connection that I do feel with this life force that I call God. So what happens, and Christianity is not the only religion that I have dabbled in, but if I would ask now to identify myself, it would be a little closer to Christianity, because I really resonate with a lot of what is written about in the Bible and with the struggles that I read about the people going through in the Bible stories. So to the topic. My first experience with dreams and narcissism is actually after I first moved in with my narcissistic partner. So we met in 2002 when I was 15 years old, and then we moved in together about 5 years later. And we moved into it was like a one-room apartment, and then it had a small an area for the bed, but without a door. And my partner was working a lot at the time, so I was at home a lot in this apartment and studying. And I have never believed in ghosts, but in this apartment, I started to experience something. At first, I didn't know what it was, but during my studies, I have later identified it as sleep paralysis. So it would actually never happen. Like, this is a strange thing. So sleep paralysis is when you are awakened from your sleep. So you are conscious, but you can't move your body. And then you experience like a dark force or a being or something scary in the room with you. And you are terrified, but you can't move. And it usually happens like in younger kids. But this happened to me when I was 20. And then I experienced it like I would actually be afraid to go and take a nap when my partner wasn't there, because then I would have this sleep paralysis, and it was really intense and scary. So I would lay in bed, and then I would like open my eyes and see this dark being in the room, and then the being would get like into close to me and like hug me or wrestle with me, and then I would fall asleep even though this being was like lying next to me, and it was really scary and really, really disturbing. And so it is there might be some sort of physical explanation for this, and there is a scientific explanation where it is believed that like the brain is still in a dream state. So during REM sleep, when you're dreaming, the body is supposed to be paralyzed, but now you have like regained conscious even though your body is still in REM sleep. So that is the like scientific explanation. Anyway, this happened like in a phase of our relationship that was still things were quite good, and my partner was really like attentive and interested in me, and he was at his very best behavior still. And when we later married and moved to another home, so when I married him, these sleep paralysis disappeared. This is my first experience. And they later resurfaced, and then that is the time when I started to think a little bit more about them, and I will return to that. When our relationship, so after we had our 2 kids, our relationship went sideways, and I think it was very intentional from my partner's side. So I think that he was an abusive person who tricked me into a relationship. And then when I was vulnerable in a position where I didn't have the financial means to get away, nor the energy, and I had 2 kids depending on me, then he took the opportunity to show that side of him more and more. And my first reaction when he started to behave in this manner, so he was cheating on me, disappearing, withdrawing, and then treating me poorly. My first reaction was to confront this behavior and try to make him change. This led to a series of confrontations, like he ramped up his bad behavior in order to get me to submit. And I did submit, so it ended with an episode that almost took my life. And after that, I was in a shock state for a few weeks, like feeling totally out of my body, and this affected me deeply. I was like, actually, I got scared of him on some level, but on another level, I still loved him. And there were several reasons for why I chose to stay and why I chose to like end my confrontative manner, because I thought that I thought that his behavior was a result of we having 2 small kids, and then that my confrontation had provoked this behavior. So he had lost control. It was like a crime of passion. He loved me so much, so he didn't know what to do when our relationship started to become rocky. So that was the explanation that I told myself. But before we got to that, and after that, I tried to find another way to deal with the behavior, and I try to focus on mending our relationship instead of confronting his behavior. And I thought that when our relationship get better again, then he will return to the behavior that he had during the first years of our relationship. Before I got to that point, and before we got to this final face down, he was behaving increasingly scary. And one time we had an argument, and then he left the apartment that we lived in. And I was laying in the bedroom, in the same room where I had my small kids sleeping. And then I got this knowledge. So I got the knowledge, and I don't know where it came from. It was just me knowing that, my God, he's sitting in the basement and he is thinking that he will light the apartment on fire. Like he will hurt us and he will start a fire. And I don't know where this thought came from, but it was just like a complete certain knowledge. So I started to panic, and I lay there in bed, and I had two young kids still in diapers, the little one just a few months. And I thought, what am I going to do? Am I going to run from here? I lay there. It must have been like a few hours at least, just listening to every sound. Like, is he coming in? Is he coming in? I can't go to sleep, and I couldn't make a decision. But then suddenly, just as suddenly as the first realization came to me that he's down in the basement, another realization, there was this calm coming over me, and feeling that you don't need to worry. You are safe and you're looked after, and just go to sleep. Like you are watched over. And the worry just left me, and I went to sleep. And then I forgot about this episode, but a few days later, when I talked to my husband, I think it was we were in this abusive cycle, and there were this flare-ups, and then there were the tension, and then he wouldn't talk to me, and then we would hash it out, and he would bring up everything that he thought I was doing wrong, and I would try to make him see my point of things. So we would have these long thoughts, and it would usually end with him having a long monologue. I made a video about this, the brainwashing monologue. But during one of these talks, he said to me that, the other night when we had this huge fight, never make me angry like that. I was actually sitting in the basement, and I was so angry that I thought that I'm just gonna burn the whole place down. So that confirmed to me that that feeling that I had, that was a true feeling. And after the 2017 was a very scary year, and I decided to stay on, and I decided to switch totally the method that I used to interact with him. And I did have success, I thought, because the physical episodes and the very scary parts of our relationship disappeared, but what was left was still our relationship went into a calmer period. My husband seemed to behave better, but he took this opportunity to stay way longer, travel by himself, cheat on me. And then, as the years went on, the emotional abusive episodes returned, and the control, the coercive control, him trying to control everything, that really ramped up. And eventually the physical abuse returned. So let's see. I left him in the end of 2023. I did have a very, very strong sense of a coming doom or coming catastrophe. In this year, it was both the things that he was saying, what I can only describe as evil thoughts that he was sharing. I can't tell you everything, but parts of it was like, for example, he would wish that our country would go into war because the people in our country should suffer and it would be just fair on them. Like he had this enormous hate against humanity and against like it became like evil. That's what the only word I can use. So I had this, like, what made me leave, there were several things. When I tried to share my story, I share part of it. And that is only part of what happened. There is so much, like it's a whole life to share. So in a way, what made me leave was that staying felt like a bigger chance than leaving. I just have this knowledge that it's not going to end well if I stay, like I have to go. After I left, he tried in several ways to meet me in private and to meet me alone, and I refused, and I had to take certain security measures in order for not to do that. I am sure that if I had not listened to that intuition, I would not be here. And so supporting that, I had this, then I started to have dreams. So during all of the years that we were married up until the separation, I can't remember having any dreams of like significance. And actually in the last years, I don't remember dreaming at all. I was so exhausted just from every day. But after the separation, I started to have this extremely disturbing and very vivid dreams in which, like, I have never had such dreams before. It was like I was inside of his head. It was like Harry Potter when he has this, when he realizes what Voldemort is thinking and seeing things from his eyes. But in this scenario, so I was inside my husband's head, and while he was torturing me in horrible ways, and I could like it was like his thoughts were mine, and I was just hating and wanted to hurt, and I was trying to break myself, but it was in the dream, it wasn't me. And so I had this every night, and they were so scary that I would like be afraid to go back to sleep. And I felt certain that like this is what he is thinking, and this is what he is fantasizing about. So it just made me even more determined not to give him an opportunity to hurt me. When I did eventually tell the authorities about my situation, and I got under a protected identity, those dreams just disappeared. And I was at a safe, like he didn't know where we were, so I was in safety. Of course, you can argue that this is just your subconscious, and perhaps it is my subconscious. So I can't tell you what the truth is. I'm just sharing my experience. And then you can make what you want of it. If you have had similar experiences, though, perhaps this will give you something to think about and something to relate to. About 2 months after we moved and went under the protected identity, I woke up and I had started a new work at this point. I woke up in the early morning hours. It was 3 a.m. after having this horrible dream. I dreamt that my ex-husband had found us, that he was in the same town. And I dreamt that as my kids were going home from school, he caught one of them, and then he called me while he was hurting this kid. And I could, in the dream, I could hear the sounds and the screams and his voice and exactly what he said. I could hear his voice very vivid. And in the dream, I got so upset that I just threw the phone. It was a very illogical thing to do, because then I wouldn't be able to have any influence about the situation. And it was out of character for me. In the dream, I behaved in a way that I was almost in shock from this dream. It was such a vivid dream. It felt like a reality. And I woke up sweating, and my heart was just racing. And then I found myself in my bedroom, and so I was safe. And I told myself it was just a dream. It was one of those dreams you had after you left, and when he was hurting you, it was just one of those. You're safe, and he doesn't know where you are, and you have this protected identity. Don't worry, it's just dreams. But then I asked the relative. We lived just the same street as the school, so sometimes the kids would go there. They would go home. I would follow them, then they would go home by themselves. But this morning, the plan was that they would go to school by themselves because I was going to work, and then they would go home by themselves. But I couldn't quite shake this feeling, so I asked a relative that was in the same town, can you please follow my kids home from school? Can you pick them up and then go home with them so that they don't go by themselves? I didn't tell her about the dream, but I told her that my daughter is still a bit hesitant about going by herself, and that was also true. So she didn't quite like going by herself. Then I went to work, and I got a text from this relative that I'm sorry, I can't pick up the kids, but I spoke to them in the morning, and I spoke to your daughter, and they said that they will manage by themselves. So don't worry. And I couldn't help myself from worrying a bit. So I asked my boss. Something made me ask my boss to leave early that day, and so I actually went. I never went so early from work to be able to pick them up before the school day was finished. And then as I picked the kids up and we were walking to our home, my kids, or one of them, told me that this morning we saw our father. And talking to kids, can you really be sure about what they saw? Perhaps it is someone who looks similar to them. But this combined with this warning dream, I think it was a warning dream, I had to take it seriously. So I contacted the authorities, and I later actually saw him by myself. I could see him. He didn't see me, but it was from a window. So it was true. He was there, and I had this being without no dreams for several months, and then this warning dream. I don't have an explanation for that other than getting a warning from the good force. Um, we then had to quite quickly relocate, and I was able to use my brother's mobile home, and I didn't know where to go at first. So I was going, first I just went, actually, I went straight north, and then turned over there is a mountain passage to Norway, so I was planning on going there. And when I was stopping at the last gas station there before the crossing, and it's just really windy there in the mountains, and then there was a police who called me, and he was every policeman I have interacted with has been really really empathic and supportive. But this one policeman, I don't think he liked me. He didn't say it straight out, but he indicated that, well, you're good at you're good at talking, and he said that he didn't believe that we had seen my ex-partner, the stalker. And then he called me to convince me to not leave the town where we lived. And he said, well, are you sure that it's not your only panic that is speaking? Sometimes when you panic, you can see things that, you can see someone who looks similar to the person, and then you just panic and think about your kids. You can't just you start a life and then you just leave. But I tried to convince him, I'm not hysterical, but at the same time there was this wind going down in the mountain pass, and I was I'm at the crossing to Norway, so it's too windy, I can't talk with you, but I'm not overreacting. Yeah, I wasn't able to convince him. But anyway, as we were moving around in an area where, in the north of Sweden, you can sometimes drive for a whole day without finding a gas station. And there were lots of trees, but it takes perhaps hours before you get to a small town. It's very rural, and you really need, I had this extra gas tanks, and we had a diesel heater in the car, and it was an adventure, actually. So we did have a lot of fun. But one day I was at a small road. There were no cars there. And then I decided, no, we're gonna take another route. So I looked at the map, and then I wanted to turn the car around. So I went off the road and then into the wood, on a small road, and there was a grass plain, a circle. And then I was supposed to go around there and then back to the road. And there was a small bump there in the grass, and one of the wheels stuck. And as I tried to get the wheel up, I was pushing on the engine, and then I backed the car and accidentally got one of the wheels into the ditch instead. So it was stuck, and I tried to get it up, but I couldn't. And I was feeling a bit desperate. It was Friday afternoon, in the middle of nowhere. I didn't even know if my cell phone had reach. There it was, and then my kids said, Mommy, what are we going to do? And I said, I don't know, I can't get the wheel up. Let's just pray. So that's not something I normally do, but I just put my hands together and prayed to God. God, I don't know, I can't do this, help me get the wheel out. And just a few seconds after that, there was a car coming into this small wooden road, and then a man and a young boy stepped out, and this man said, like, I saw your car when you went, like, took the exit, and I just wanted to see if you were okay. So I didn't even see him. It must have been the only car around, and he just for some reason decided to turn around and go back. And he helped me, actually. He had this thick, like, bands that we put around the car, and he pulled me up. So yeah, it just showed to me that even though I think there is something going on, something dark going on in, or was going on in our relationship, when my husband became so hating and planning evil, the light force, it was more powerful, and I got, like, help that I can't explain. And then after we moved, there would be another time of him finding us and we having to leave. And I didn't never feel safe in that place that we moved to. I can't tell you why. But after the move, I started to have more, like, post-traumatic stress. I would look outside the window, and then, like, I would see someone walking their dog, like, and then I would get a jolt, like, is it him? But no, it's just someone walking their dog. And it took, like, the stress levels didn't decrease, and I started to have these night terror, the sleep paralysis again. And I haven't had it for years, but I had it, like, almost every night. And I would, like, even when I woke up from the sleep paralysis and I shook it off, I still felt this, like, pressing presence, like, in the room with me. And then when I would go back to sleep, I would have the sleep paralysis again. So, like, made me not want to go to sleep. And perhaps this is just, like, a part of post-traumatic stress. That might be. But somehow it might not be. And I will tell you about my daughter's experiences. So she used to have night terrors from when she was a little girl. I don't think, well, you might never know, but my kids didn't see the abusive episodes. They happened when they were asleep. I don't think that they noticed that much. They might notice the tension in the home. But she had these night terrors. She would wake up, like, after going to sleep, and then after a few hours she would wake up screaming, and I wasn't able to calm her down. She would scream and scream. It would sometimes last for 1 or 2 hours, and scream and cry, and then eventually, like, fall asleep exhausted. And this happened from when she was a little girl. And after the separation and after the move from that apartment that we live in together to another home, then they completely stopped. So she didn't have night terrors after that. But when we went, so when he found us, we went to the new apartment, and then when I started to have this sleep paralysis, that is when the night terrors returned for her. So, and it would happen, like, the same nights. So the same nights that I had a sleep paralysis, she would have the night terrors. It has, like, disappeared for the both of us now, but it was a very strange coincidence. So I don't really know what to make of this. And well, my takeaway message is just that there is someone out there watching for us and watching over us and helping us. And if you align yourself with the good force, that is more powerful. And even though I had this person who wished me ill in any way possible, he wasn't able to accomplish it because I listened to my intuition, and I got warnings from that connection, and I also got help. And I think that that connection is available for anyone. So that's the message. I think it's a message of hope. If you like this video, I will put my playlist at the end. This is Emma holding up a light over the bridge. Remember, there is always a way out. There is always a way forward. Please be safe, take care, and have a great day.